New at noon.
Well, it's interesting, the Russian Minister of Defense visiting an area that's occupied by the Russian forces in Ukraine as the Russians overnight launched another wave of Shahed kamikaze drone attacks against targeting the capital region. The Ukrainian air defense has shot most of them down in air raids. Sirens have been going off throughout most of the night and most of the morning. And what's so interesting about Shoigu himself going to Mariupol, which is one of the largest cities, or the largest city in Ukraine that the Russian military has captured so far, is that we haven't really seen much of the Minister of Defense in areas on the front lines or close to areas that are still seeing fighting. Now, of course, the Azov battalion in Ukraine held off for over 3 months in a siege in Mariupol. That gave the other units in the Ukrainian military along other fronts precious time to counterattack eventually the Russians. But now Mariupol is under Russian control. And this visit by Shoigu may be part of an internal Kremlin power struggle between Shoigu and his longtime rival Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's the head of the private military contractors, the Wagner Group. Now, Prigozhin has been making a number of videos showing himself close to the front lines in the east. So this may be an effort by Shoigu to show the troops that he is also working close on the front lines. And it's also coming at a time when Russian soldiers have been posting videos on social media complaining that in some instances they're being thrown into fighting hardened defensive positions controlled by the Ukrainians. President Zelensky of Ukraine held a nearly 4-hour press conference with the International Press Corps, and what stuck out the most to me was Zelensky's insistence that Ukraine will be victorious against the Russian military. It was exactly a year ago that the Russians launched an all-out assault from the north, from the east, and from the southern part of Ukraine. And President Zelensky highlighted how the Ukrainian forces managed, against all odds, and despite the consensus at the time, that Ukrainians were able to successfully repel the Russian forces from Kyiv and eventually from parts of the northeastern part of Ukraine in the Kharkiv province. Specifically, Zelensky referred to the outpouring of European support. Poland has now sent Leopard 2 tanks, and Ukraine is expecting even more of these advanced main battle tanks to throw into the important battles that are ongoing right now in the eastern front of the Donbass region. And Zelensky, when he was asked to respond to President Macron of France's statement that Russia, quote, must not be crushed, Zelensky's response was that, good, we want European countries to start thinking of a Russian defeat and what will happen afterwards. So it seemed that Zelensky was very much in a positive mood that Ukraine, with sufficient military support from the West and from NATO, would be victorious against the Russian military. Another important takeaway from that press conference was that Zelensky said that in order to prevent World War III from taking place, Ukraine must be given the weapons to defeat Russia. Close to the front lines.